Alright, what's up everyone? Thanks for coming to my channel. My name is James. You probably don't know who I am. I'm nobody really. But this is my first race ever. It's the Black Hill Circuit race in Boyds, Maryland. It's a little bit less than an hour drive from my place. This is the Cat 5 field, obviously, because this is my first race. And here are some of my numbers. My racing age is 39, because I'm turning 39 this year in 2022. My FTP is 255 on paper. I think it's a little bit lower than that, maybe probably closer to 250. I currently weigh 71.8 kilograms, which is 158 pounds. I've gained about 10 pounds over the past month and a half. I'll explain a little bit later as to why that happened. Today's race was 30 minutes long, and we were able to get 11.46 miles within that time. My average power for today was 227 watts, and my normalized power was 285 watts. So that's almost a 60 watt difference between the two numbers, which means it's definitely a punchy race. A lot of anaerobic efforts. Average speed was 22.2 miles per hour. Alright, so the race rolls out. My heart rate was already at 140, standing at the start line. My max heart rate is 200. I use 200 even though I've seen it go up to 205 before. But 200 is a round, reliable number that I use for my max heart rate. So keep that in mind when you look at the heart rate data here during this race. The data will come up soon. I actually, like a noob, forgot to start my Wahoo until right about now. We're on the first climb. This climb is the big climb of the day on the course. This is where you're going to be putting out the most watts. The other side, there is a pretty steep and fast downhill. The finish line, we just passed it. There was a red line on the ground. For the race today, the center line rule is in effect. So you will see cars on the other side of the road, and you will also see cyclists on the other side of the road who are warming up for following races. Alright, so immediately after that first climb, we haven't even gone a quarter lap, and the race is already strung out. Now, this actually worked out pretty well for me. I was actually a little nervous that the pack would be too close together during this downhill or during the race, and make it a little bit less safe and a little more sketchy. I think in general, for anybody who decides to race in any type of bike race, crashing and injury is always a concern. For me, I think that was my only concern with racing, but seeing how it was strung out, I was actually kind of happy. This is probably the busiest it gets for me during the entire race. You can see maybe about 12 to 15 people here. For the rest of the race, I was probably around a group of 5 or 6 people at most during the race. So the race actually felt really safe, which was nice, and I just had to focus on the suffering. Now, my goals for today, I had multiple goals. Obviously, I wanted to have fun, which I actually did. I wanted to ride efficiently and smartly, but during the race, and you'll see this within the first 2 laps, I'm trying to stay with the front pack of riders the entire time. So even if a couple people go off the front, I'm trying to chase them down. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm covering pretty much every split, and I'm trying to bridge across, and you'll see I waste a lot of watts doing that. And when it comes to the end result of the race, I actually probably could have done a little bit better. I got 12th in this race, which is not bad for a first race, I don't think, but I definitely eat way more wind than I should have. On this section of the course, whatever wind there was coming from the water. So it's coming from our left, and it's a pretty fast section of road. So if I really wanted to nitpick, I would say that I should be on the right side of the road with another rider to my left or in front and left. Now, in a 30-minute race in a Cat 5 field, it probably doesn't make that big of a difference. But naturally, as races and events get longer in duration, those types of things would make a much bigger difference. And we are here on the big climb again at the start-finish line. And we are definitely going to take this at a faster pace than we did the first time. So we are putting down more watts, up to, I think, 600, yep. The guys on the front are clearly powering up this climb, so I put in a dig here. And again, like I said, my mindset was stick with the front group as long as possible. So I'm wasting watts again here. And I'm in the wind, all by myself. Now, coming up to these two riders here, I should have latched onto the back of them. But instead, I roll right through. So I'm not getting the recovery that I need. I'm burning another mini match, and I don't have very many of those. And all of these little efforts are going to hurt me in the future. So my threshold heart rate is somewhere around 180. So my heart rate being at 187 right now, I'm definitely hurting a bit. Now these two guys, they roll right through. And these two guys actually end up first and second. So we never see them again. My mindset in the race at this point was still follow the front guys as closely as possible. So I do this. Now, I never made contact with those two guys up there, and I realize that I am hurting. So now I'm stuck in no man's land again, eating wind, riding by myself with a group behind. Now, I will say this. If my mindset from the beginning of the race was ride as efficiently as possible, I would never be in this position. I would have been on the back of this group behind me, and I wouldn't be wasting energy again. Now, this guy behind me, I think his name is Aiden, as he poses for the camera. At this point, I really should have just shut it down and let him pull through.
On the hill, I'll pull for you. I can't pull on downhill. I got limited gear.
So here he said he would pull for me on the uphill, and he can't pull on the downhills. Now, the talk worked. I was in go mode, so I just kept going. And he gets a little bit of a draft off me. I'm dying, and I'm eating the wind again. Wasting watts, wasting matches. My heart rate's up. And on this big climb again, obviously I can't keep up because I already wasted myself. Now, I'm not kidding when I say I have probably seen every single possible race analysis video on all the different channels on YouTube. And I've actually heard a lot of people say that this type of thing works, where you can actually influence other people by talking to them in the race. And now I've lived it. Maybe he thought I was fit enough to actually do all of that work and then be able to keep up on the climb, but maybe he just didn't know how weak I am. Now, my heart rate is at 192. And I'm coming down this hill. And right here, oh, I missed an opportunity to let the guy pull me down the hill, but instead I said, no, I'll do it. Noob. The day before the race, I actually set up my Wahoo Element Bolt computer screen to show me the data fields that I thought would be most essential for racing for that day. I set it up and I took the time to do that, and I thought I would actually look at the computer screen quite a lot during the race, but when I think back, I think I only looked at the computer maybe 2 or 3 times during the entire race, and I think it was mainly just to look at the elapsed time for the ride so that I would know approximately how much longer until the end of the race. When I'm doing normal rides outside, I actually look at my computer quite a lot, but during this race, I mean, obviously being the first race, the cognitive load was so high, and my focus was on the race, so there wasn't much time for me to even look at the computer, or rather, my focus wasn't necessarily on the numbers. So anyway, I ride with this group for about another half lap until we hit the big climb again at the start finish. I pace myself up the climb right behind them, but unfortunately they dropped me on the downhill after that climb. And then I rode solo for I think maybe about a lap or so. So let's hop forward a little bit. Alright, so here we are on lap 5. I take a peek behind me and I see that a group is catching up to me, so I actually decide to kind of shut it down. I'm just soft pedaling, and I'm eventually going to let the group behind me catch up. So I'm trying to recover a little bit so that I can join this group. Now, at this point in the race, I think there are, let's see, I think there might be 3 small groups ahead of me. It doesn't seem like we're going to catch up to any of them. So at this point, I decide that once I join this group, I'm going to ride as efficiently as possible, try to stay in the draft, so that when we do a group sprint, I'm hoping that I can pull out some watts at the end. Alright, so we're going uphill a little bit here before this left turn. The group has pretty much caught up now. And what'll happen is I'll let them pull through, I'll tag onto the back, and basically ride with them for the next 3 laps like this, pretty much to the finish line. We're coming to the end of my first race ever, and I've learned quite a lot from watching this video and analyzing it. I'm pretty satisfied with how everything went for the day, and with each new race that I participate in, I'm looking to learn much more. There are definitely a lot of things that I could have done better, but I think the main thing that did me in for this race was I wasted way too much energy early on thinking I could stick with the front guys. And also, this is my first commentary ever, so let me know how I did. If there's anything that you would change, let me know. If you see something that I did that I could learn from and you want to share that with me, please do in the comments. As we finish this one out, we'll watch the final sprint. So if you remember from the beginning of the video, this start-finish line is on a 7 to 8% grade, and even before the race started, I was thinking about how the timing of the sprint would be important. I didn't want to go too early and run out of steam by the end, and I didn't want to go too late and lose some momentum that I had already built up. In hindsight, I actually time it pretty well. I use a little bit of a sprinter's gap behind Zach here. I start breathing really heavily like I'm some animal being chased by a predator. Anthony hears me coming, but thankfully I'm able to pip him at the line for 12th. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. That's my first race.